What is going on, heroes and villains? Shoebeastie here with yet again another Injustice 2 video. It's taken me quite a while to put this together because I have such strong feelings regarding, Spawn and his inclusion in Injustice 2 as opposed to Mortal Kombat. But that's what this video is about, my best effort and to give a non-biased view and just show the pros and cons of having him in either game. So let's just get into like variation system in Mortal Kombat X versus having the gear system that we have now in Injustice 2. Now we might get a form of gear system in, let's say, Mortal Kombat 11, but assuming that they're just going to stick with the same kind of platform that they've got going on with the variation system. Variation system's cool. Yeah, you get 3 different essentially characters within the same character, but the problem is that, if I'm not mistaken, any DLC character so far in Mortal Kombat has not received an alternate attire.
I knew that.
It's cool to mix and match alternate attires with variations to end up with like different looks, so you feel like that character's a little bit more custom to you. But that's really what Injustice 2 kind of specializes in with their gear system. Mix matching boots and, gloves and whatever else, your helmet. But I have a hard time also just being a big fan of Spawn taking, let's say, Redeemer's mask and putting it on Spawn, or Medieval mask and putting it on Spawn. I don't want to see this mixed-matched, awkward, oddly shaped gear set. And to be honest, the gear system isn't as elaborate as I thought it would be. Variations do give you slightly different moves and so on and so forth. It's not customizable like Injustice 2. Injustice 2, you unlock these other moves. You really make the character your own. When you're fighting, your friends online, things like that, they're bound to see a move that they didn't know existed even in the game, which I do really like that. So I gotta say, when it comes to variation versus gear system, I'm definitely leaning more towards Injustice 2. So we're going to start looking at the moves of the characters. Now, most importantly is going to be the super move and the fatalities for each individual character that they'll receive. Obviously, you only get one super move, and it kind of takes place of, let's just say, the X-ray attack in Mortal Kombat X. Fatalities are very gruesome, same with brutalities, stage fatalities. There's just a lot more of them. So that I do like quite a bit. I'm kind of one-sided on the fact that Spawn is known for being violent and gory, ripping people apart. It's just kind of his thing. It's his forte. And I actually remember back in MKX thinking, wow, a lot of these remind me of some of the scenes that he had done, back in the animated series, some of the killings or whatever of the bad guys. Just added that with the fact that you can tear a guy's limbs off in Mortal Kombat, and you're not going to do that in Injustice 2. But Injustice 2 moves are much more epic looking. So, I mean, there are moments where Firestorm, you're bringing the guy into this alternate realm looking thing, this fiery realm. And, as Spawn, you could drag him down into hell and have Malbosia in the background or something neat like that. You could go much more elaborate, I feel, within Injustice 2. But am I going to take one epic looking move versus, like 6? Moves that are still relatively epic and more true to the character in the first place? No, absolutely not. When it comes to, all the violence and gore, Mortal Kombat really has the ability to showcase Spawn accurately. So in terms of super moves versus fatalities, Mortal Kombat is definitely taking the win on this one, in my opinion. While staying on the topic of moves, we're also going to be incorporating stages. And I'm not talking about how in Injustice 1 there's more effing stages than Injustice 2, which is just asinine. We're going to be talking about the stage ratio. In Injustice 2, you're able to stand farther apart from the character, the camera's farther back, and when you're standing up close, it doesn't just zoom in and focal point the two characters that just kind of take over the whole screen like it does in Mortal Kombat. And this is a big deal to me because Spawn's cape and his chains are a big deal to me. His cape is massive. It's not small by any means at all. And they better friggin' incorporate it whenever he becomes a character. I'd rather him use more capes and chains than guns any day. But Mortal Kombat, it's just so tight-knit. Everything's right there. The focal point's right there. You're not allowed to do this grand move like how if you're Supergirl, you're jumping back in the air and firing the lasers out of your eyes or vision, from a distance, it's a necessity for Spawn. If you don't utilize his cape, if you're not using his friggin' chains, then he's just a guy with guns that hits hard. And that's like one of the last things that I want for Spawn. So I've got to give it to Injustice 2 on the fact that, you know, you've got more room. You're able to see more of that background. When you jump in the air, your head's not clipping the top of the screen. Now, with all that kind of out of the way, talking about just Spawn himself, what about his buddies? What about like Cagliostro or, you know, Chapel? What about these guys? Would they be incorporated in some way, shape, or form? And Injustice 2, it's likely, you know, because we have Premier skins. You know, so you could get a Cygor Premier skin for Gorilla Grodd, or a Chapel Premier skin for Deadshot, or a friggin' Redeemer or Anti-Spawn Premier skin for Dr. Fate. And with Premier skins, they don't have to be verbatim the character's moves. That's been proven by now with characters like Vixen not being able to morph into other creatures besides a cheetah, essentially. But Mortal Kombat isn't going to be able to do that. In Mortal Kombat, it would have to be a whole nother character, which would be cool. I mean, I would love to play, you know, Spawn versus the Clown, and then finishing Spawn off using the Violator or something, or having the Vindicator of his whole little group of guys come out and attack Spawn, which would be neat, but a lot less likely. So if we did get Spawn as DLC and Injustice 2, it would be a benefit as far as possibly getting some of his counterparts to fight alongside him. All of this excitement really started because of Ed Boon putting up this little post here for non-MK guests for Injustice 2. And yes, we've seen Spawn and Batman fight, you know, in comics themselves. And yes, Spawn is a comic character. But just because he's a comic character doesn't mean he's a perfect fit for this game. We're not going to see the violence, you know, in this game that we see in the comics. Even DC comic violence is much more than what we're seeing in Injustice 2. And on topic of, let's just say, Sub-Zero, you know, I have a lot of people saying Sub-Zero is loved in Injustice 2 and he's from Mortal Kombat, but that's just it. He is from Mortal Kombat. You can go back and play MKX and do all these fatalities and stuff like that. So this version of Sub-Zero is open with welcome arms, you know. He's also got like Noob Saibot moves, so who isn't gonna love that, you know? But I think in the end, it really comes down to the violence for me. Am I going to want to see a nerfed version of Spawn? Like, if they made a Cartoon Network series of Spawn, I probably wouldn't even friggin' watch it, despite how big of a Spawn fan I am, just because I need things to be kind of true to that character. You know, I don't want to see Spawn in a diaper. And a lot of people have not really been introduced to this character. You know, they see him and they're like, oh, that's a cool character, but they don't really know about him himself. And I do implore you guys to check out, it's on YouTube, his animated series. But yeah, so that's it, guys. I mean, Injustice or Mortal Kombat, I'm going to be excited to get Spawn either way. I would prefer to get him in MKX. I'm going to prefer to get him in Mortal Kombat 11, but I am going to buy him if he shows up in Injustice 2. Alright guys, and no more Spawn talk, at least for right now. I want to thank everyone that debated me on Twitter to give me topics to talk about, and check out Children of Arkham. We're going to be doing monthly giveaways now to active members. So comment, like, subscribe, message me, give me a massage, whatever. Later.